I will defeat the Powerpuff Girls, or my name isn't Mojo Projo.
Imotekh versus Marnius Calgar, Ishin, and Josu Ves. That is a 2-lander for us. Maybe if we land Black Market Connections we can get something going here. Like the Mass Reanimation. It's not great, but this is quite a heavy deck anyway with regards to mana cost because it's a Reanimator deck, so I'll try it against my better judgment. Alright, well, not getting into a land on our first turn. We've got another couple of turns to do it. We can at least play the Psychomancer during our second turn. Land, please. Nope. Got one more chance, drawing into Illuminor Seraz. The first zombie from Josu Ves, so we'll assume it's a zombie tribal deck. Enters, mill 3 cards. So in the graveyard now is Dreadhorde General. I'm sure they'll be unhappy to see the back of that. Plague Belcher's a really good one as well. They'll be able to reanimate it though. Unholy Grotto, so yeah, good to see some of those hit the bin, to be honest. Seeing a Sol Ring from Ishin as well. Noteworthy, there is a Shinka in play as well to give first strike. And the token player getting out Oketra's Monument, which will trigger on any creatures being cast. Last chance saloon for the land. Alright, well, it's a tap land, but that'll do. Maybe we can take a turn off next turn as well to ramp ahead a little bit. Or is it going to be worth going for this just to get the card drawing treasures going? We ramp either way. So, sort of missing out there. Another zombie in the form of Vizier of the Scorpion now. The tokens are going to have Death Touch, and it does enter with a zombie token. Delina for the Mardu player. 3 mana, Hero of Bladehold, thanks to the Oketra's Monument, so enters with a Vigilance Warrior token. Alright, so see if we manage to look out and get another land. We do not. There's the one ring though, so we'll be drawing cards like crazy with that. Yeah, there's every chance that we'll lose the Black Market Connections and then I'll wish that I went for the Myriad Landscape, but I really don't want to be missing out on lands any more than we already have, so we'll somewhat catch up on lands with this, and then if we draw a land next turn and make a treasure, then we'll be looking alright. We're going pretty slow here, but hopefully it means that our opponents aren't looking at us. Sometimes it will benefit you to go much slower than your opponents. Vampiric Tutor during the main phase for the black player, so we'll assume that he's just drawn into that. And then just tapping out, staying at 4 cards in hand. And there's a scary one. We're now to Joiner of Forces before attacks go off. This triggers on non-human creatures, and Delaney... Oh, she's an elf, not a human. So we'll trigger, and this swings in towards us because we're the easiest to swing in at the moment. So Delina going to trigger, gets a copy of Delina. We're now to triggering thanks to it being a non-human, and it manages to get into Tori the Avanant. Vigilance Trample whenever it attacks. Alright, so they won't get the attack trigger on that, so it doesn't matter, but +1/+1 till the end of the turn. Red attacking creatures get trample, white get untapped. Like I said, won't get those triggers, so that is the token and the indestructible going in at the left. The 3/2 hits us. More tokens being generated thanks to the monument after casting a 4 mana Grim Hireling, so gonna make some treasure tokens here. We've got 2 attacking based commanders here, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they fare. We're in a combo style deck, and both of these creatures are attacking us, so not trying to go wide. Might have been an idea to send a creature in over here so that they could make more treasure tokens. Alright, going in at the Winota, so we'll get a couple of treasure tokens per creature that hits an opponent here. Or per opponent that is hit with a creature, specifically. So Grim Hireling did trigger twice there, like I said, so it's 2 treasure tokens twice, obviously equals 4 for those of you who can't do basic maths. Now let's see what we can draw here. Bet we don't get into a land. We don't on the first draw. Black Market Connections triggers during the main. So do we just need to start getting blockers into play here to try and dissuade our opponent? I think we do. So we'll go all in on the Black Market Connections this time. Don't have too much means of gaining life, but we did just draw into the Wormcoil engine. And there is a Solemn Simulacrum, so that could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We get a land into play and a blocker as well. Yeah, we're not looking incredible here. We're already down to 26. But we'll try another turn cycle. I don't think we're going to keep up with our opponents here, but never know, someone might be able to wipe the board. Liliana, Death's Majesty. So, some self-mill and a 2/2 token, you would assume. And Marnius Calgar has something in response. That is a Dovin's Veto. I don't think the Planeswalker's really worth using a Dovin's Veto on, to be honest, but maybe he's got multiple counters available to him. Yeah, I don't think this is a particularly scary one. Means it's not getting used on our One Ring or Living Death at least, though. I wonder if it's worth us going for a Living Death next turn, actually. We could... Let's see here. There's only one creature in the bin here. We could block with both of our creatures to put them in the bin and bring them back out with a Living Death just to buy ourselves some time. And that will get rid of the Ishin that's just entered play. Might be worth doing. A Firemane Avenger as well has battalions, so needs to swing in with a couple of other creatures. Does not have haste though. So our blockers may work here. Delina swings in to the right. And the 3/3 does as well. Vigilance and Trample. This will be Trample onto the Delina as well because it's red. Untap this and Trample because Winota's going in at the right as well. And it's double triggers thanks to the Ishin coming into play, so each of them will get +1/+1 twice as well. Winota will go and find a couple of creatures and then trying to make copies of the Firemane Avenger. And they get a couple into play tap there. And then the other one is about to resolve. And they get another one into play tapped, so... And these get exiled at the end of combat. They do get untapped, thanks to those triggers and these being white. So this guy knocked down to 11, that's a hell of a lot of damage. Might be encouraging a board wipe himself at the moment. Anyway, the Angel tokens are exiled, one card in the Mardu player's hand. And noteworthy that Terrax whiffed on the Winota as well, so looked at the top 6 cards twice but didn't see anything, so there's either a lack of humans or he was just really unlucky with the triggers there. Anyway, there is some damage being spread around here seemingly. Hero of Bladehold, the tokens come into play first and then Battlecry resolved, and that is correct. So we get Hero of Bladehold, couple of tokens to the left, Grim Hireling to the left, a token at us, token to the left, and a token at us. So see how we want to block here. Want to try and not kill off any of our opponent's creatures if we're going to go for this Living Death, which could whiff on us because our opponent has 5 cards in hand and we have seen that he's got counter magic now. Oh, we took the damage apparently. Okay, yeah, the plan was to block there, but alright, I must have passed through the blocks by accident. Oh well, we could always attack in over here and encourage some blocks because he's at a low life total, so even though it's only 2 damage from the Solemn Simulacrum, he might not want to take it, especially when he's got a Pain Land in play. Alright, but encouraging a board wipe of his own anyway, so I don't feel too bad about that now. Does mean that we're not going for Living Death, but we wouldn't have done anyway. Point the ping over here. And Solemn will draw us a card. Undead Butler is going to be able to reanimate something. Or actually it brings it back to hand, it doesn't bring it back onto the battlefield. And our opponents are looking like they don't have too many cards in hand now. So targeting the Plague Belcher back into hand. And still not drawing into a land, that is a Millikin. Then playing a Bajuka Bog, which... yeah, argument to be made for it coming in at us, but it goes in at the Boros player instead, which makes our Living Death a lot better. And there's now only one creature in the bin here, because one was returned back and one was exiled. And here it'll be Grim Hireling and Hero of Bladehold, unfortunately. But yeah, glad to see the Graveyard exile this early from this player, because we do want to keep our graveyard intact if we can. Now surely we're getting to a land here at some point, apparently not. So we're going to need to draw and make a treasure. Alright, and finally getting into a land, so there is a swamp. Living Death I don't think really matters at the moment, so do we just concentrate on ramp after the board wipe? Yeah, we can go Millikin, and we can Myriad Landscape as well. I'm not going to bother bluffing anything, and that way we get to keep the treasure token as well. Alright, so 6 lands by turn 6 eventually. We are managing to keep up on the mana by hook or by crook, past a turn. Got 8 cards in hand to discard the Wormcoil Engine as well, so we can maybe reanimate that with the Living Death over there. Definitely discard the Wormcoil Engine. So that means if we make a treasure next turn as well, we'll have 5, 6, 7, 8 mana for 2 Wormcoil Engines. That should give us some nice redundancy against any potential exile or board wipes. A Caged Sun I did not put in this deck. maybe should have done. Going to have a lot of mana available next turn. Has the chance after a board wipe to do some setting up. Forgot about the mana from the Millikin actually. We actually don't need to make a treasure necessarily in order to do the Living Death and Sculpting Steel thing. A Mishra claimed by Gix. You would assume that the Dragon Engine is in here as well. So with us being at a fairly low life total already, we're going to have to be careful of that thing. I mean, if we do go for the Living Death trick, then this thing won't be in play anyway. Mondrak Glory Dominus is a means of doubling up the tokens, brings in a token before that hits, getting some good use out of Oketra's Monument, saving a lot of mana with that. That's an awesome one. Lich Knight's Conquest, haven't seen too much of, but has a lot of tokens in play in the form of treasures, so is able to do some reanimation here, which I keep babbling on about it, but makes this even better. If they're going to reanimate their good stuff here, we'll use it as a board wipe. So grabbing back the Grim Hireling and the Hero of Bladehold, leaving his graveyard effectively empty. So all we've got to worry about is the Vizier of the Scorpion, so I think I've made my mind up now. Mesmeric Orb for some more mill, which we'd rather have got down before the mass reanimation. No point going for a creature because we're about to wipe the board. We're just not getting into lands, which is really annoying. So we keep taking hits. I'm going to take another hit and try and make a land this turn. Nope, just a Grave Pact for us, so I've accidentally passed through again. Keep doing that. Wouldn't have been attacking in here anyway, so it doesn't matter. So carefully through to the second maze before I completely screw up. Mill a card and add a mana with Milkin. And of course there is a swamp that we've just milled, because why wouldn't there be? And then it is Living Death, reanimating our stuff. We get to make a land with the Solemn Simulacrum at least, assuming that this hits, and it does. Amass a zombie over on Josu Vess's side of the field. Rampant Growth with Solemn Simulacrum, which has got us a couple of lands this game, so I won't have anyone telling me that Solemn Simulacrum isn't a good card. Has done its bit to keep us in this. And we will go for the Sculpting Steel, and that can go onto the Wormcoil Engine. Hopefully we can start adding some decent amount of life to our life total with that. So there we go. One card in hand over here, one in hand over here. Hopefully our opponents have gone too fast and they'll struggle to keep up with us. Josu Vess has a lot of mana available, unfortunately. Wait for this bell end in a loud car to go past. Not sure if you can even hear that on the mic, but I dare say you can. Okay, and then this player just scoops, so bit of a try hard apparently, and the instant that he has some pushback, he decides to just bounce, so you're getting blocked. Said in the chat there, I don't know if you saw that, he said, yeah, I've got nothing, I'm leaving. Well, you don't know what someone else is going to do. I mean, there's a red player over here, you might see a wheel. Anyway, and also it affects combat for the other players, because all these tokens could now come in at us when they would have gone in over there. Wormcoil Engine was going to go into the right, and instead it will now go towards Terrax, which puts him at a disadvantage. So yeah, really selfish plays being made there, but that's Magic Online for you. A bunch of Zombie Knights coming into play with Death Touch and Menace, thanks to Josu Vess being kicked. So that is going to be a struggle. Might have to... How much use is Grave Pact going to be against a bunch of tokens is the thing. Might have to make use of the One Ring and try and draw into a combo sometime soon. Diabolic Intent is a tutor which may well be able to finish off the game next turn. Alright, curiously, the Ishin not being replayed, nothing being replayed here, so I'm not sure of what instant speed card could be going for there, but we'll likely go Wormcoil Engine in over here anyway. There is Wayfarer's Bauble to continue to mock us on the land front. Now then, what do we want to do this turn? We've got the One Ring, which is 4, we'll have 4 mana left over, so maybe we just go for adding a bunch of mana with this. This and Wayfarer's Bauble could be it, so let's just go for a treasure token to only lose 1 life, because it seems as though we're not going to be drawing into any lands anyway. Argument to be made for drawing a card there so that we can get closer to a combo, because it feels like it's the only way we're going to win here. But you never know, we're not going to quit like so many of our opponents seem to do. So at 12 damage going in at Terrax, we'll see what that one card is. Don't have a sack outlet unfortunately, which is why I want to get this down, although this is more ramp than a sack outlet to be honest. Alright, bumping us back up to 25, we do manage to land the damage, that's good. So let's go for the Illumina Zeraz. priority not being held up by either player seemingly, so I think we're safe to go for the One Ring. And we'll have protection from everything until our next turn, so that's good. We can draw a card with the One Ring. And does not get us into a land for the turn. Could have gone for... Yeah, if I'd gone for the One Ring first, could have played Gilded Lotus into this. But not to worry. I was just trying to test our opponents for holding up priority. We will... Mesmeric Orb, is that going to be of any use to us? Instead of the Wayfarer's Bauble? Let's go for the Mesmeric Orb, get a bit of self-mill on the go. Alright, curiously now priority is being held up by the Mardu player. Passing it over to this player though, and a bunch of self-mill may well benefit him in a zombie deck. Make the game interesting at least. Okay, would have been drawing into a zombie apocalypse there, so don't think we have any zombies. Yeah, wizard there, so yeah, zombie apocalypse. They may have actually cast here so that they could slow us right down. I mean, we have some board wipe protection here, so that's not too worrisome, but probably best to just keep these big creatures in play. There's a Lord of the Accursed for Menace, a white as well, just to make some more zombie tokens, a Call to the Grave at the beginning of each player's upkeep, sack a non-zombie, and in the bin an Unbreathing Horde there as well, so managing to mill some half-decent creatures there, nothing too scary though. And Endless Ranks of the Dead is a bit of a win more card, but it is a really fun one. Love the artwork on this. And then there's that Plague Belcher that was brought back into hand previously, so 2 minus counters on a creature you control. And they go on to one of the Menace tokens, turning that into a 1/1. Not much point swinging in at us, so we'll assume that we've had our opponent guided over to the Mardu player. Don't see why he wouldn't take him out while he's got the chance, to be honest. Okay, he's not realising that we have protection apparently, so swinging all this stuff in at us. Do we want to block with Solemn Simulacrum just for the card draw? Yeah, he's taking everything in at us. There's a wide open player here with 1 card in hand, so maybe he's assuming he can get closer to taking us out, and then it's a good 1v1. Maybe that's his idea. Anyway, do we want the mana from Solemn with this next turn? I mean, we can just draw a card with it next turn anyway if we want to. We gain additional mana by sacking this, is the thing. Yeah, I will just take the damage here, or not, thanks to the One Ring. Yet another reason why you play it out, because Terax could easily have scooped it up there, thinking that he was going to get taken out by this player, but a mistake was made, so buys himself another turn. Now, could have had an Ishin in play here, but decided against it previously. Played a land, so he either held that last turn or has just drawn into it. Alright, a Sun Titan, so nothing to reanimate with that, unfortunately. He never would have been able to reanimate anything because he had quite some heavy hitters in the graveyard. So Sun Titan just a blocker and waiting for something. He will get some... Yeah, if he had the Sun Titan in hand, maybe he only just drew into it. He could have tapped down all his permanents and then untapped with Mesmeric Orb, done the self-mill and reanimated something. But maybe he just ripped into that off the top and obviously didn't realise he was going to get into it. Call to the Grave might be... Yeah, that might be Solemn Simulacrum after all. So sack the Solemn Simulacrum, will draw us a card and it will drain an opponent. I will go after the zombie player now because he's a bigger threat. Draws us into Tortured Existence. So with creatures in our hand and Tortured Existence, we can make a bunch of Necrons, which will be useful against this player. He does have Menace, but we'll be able to do some ganging up at least. Might be worth doing. Try and buy ourselves another turn here. Alright, unfortunately losing out on a Nim Deathmantle, which is part of a combo. There are 2 of those in the deck, thankfully. Spawning Pit is a good sack outlet. The Technomancer's a good thing to reanimate. Pact of the Serpent, we've got plenty of card draw anyway. Anrakia as well. And the other legend, Zarek. So we can fish creatures out at least. The One Ring will ping us for 1. We draw for the turn, that is more mana in the form of Mana Crypt. Let's go for a treasure and a card draw here, because we do want to be making as much mana as possible and seeing as many cards as possible. And of course we still don't have any access to lands from the top of our deck for some reason. So Scrap Trawler can grab the Nim Deathmantle at least, so that's probably going to be worth doing. let's draw with the One Ring. We can always discard to hand size. We don't have any max hand size in the deck, so we can load up our graveyard a bit. Alright, there's a reanimate. This is where it starts to get a bit complicated. This only reanimates artifact creature cards. We want our commander in play, I think. Yeah, not entirely sure what to do here, in all honesty. It's my first time playing the deck, and there are some intricacies here that are a bit more complicated than I was imagining. So let's get our commander into play. We definitely want that. Then we can reanimate. It's going to cost us a lot of life, but we're about to gain some. The Technomancer. So that is 7 mana. It'll be 1 mana and 7 life in that regard. Imotekh has just seen a creature leave the graveyard, so we'll make a couple of tokens. Technomancer can animate something up to a total of 6 mana. So it's Millikin and a 4-drop or something else. We could go for Anrakir. That needs to attack to trigger, but it could help us cheat out a Meteor Golem or something. So we'll grab that. And obviously this leaves the graveyard as well, so Imotekh triggering twice in total. The tokens do come in untapped. And then we can always sacrifice this and make a whole bunch of mana. Shall we do some swinging first? Yeah, let's swing in first. Imotekh going to give +2/+2 a menace. We will put that on the original Wormcoil engine. And I think I do want to get rid of Terrax before the Sun Titan starts to go off. So let's try and gain as much life as possible, because there's no guarantee that this player will swing in towards us now. So could lose the Sculpting Steel here, but doesn't really matter. Haven't seen the Necron tokens actually. Yeah, they look pretty cool. Alright, does decide to give up on Sun Titan when he's about to mill a bunch of cards, but I mean, I suppose he's got all this swinging in at him as well, so he might as well try his luck. Loses a Sculpting Steel for us, so that will trigger the Psychomancer. We will point that over to the right, and Wormcoil Engine makes a couple of tokens, even though it's a Sculpting Steel. And we jump up to 30 life, so the life gain from Wormcoil doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Alright, I think we definitely need the Scrap Trawler in play here. No means of sacrificing it is annoying. So we're just going to have to use this to sack it, and then we can grab back the Nim Deathmantle. So Scrap Trawler into play, we will sacrifice it, making 3 mana. That triggers the Psychomancer again, knocking Terrax down to 14, we go up to 31. And the Scrap Trawler will grab back the Nim Deathmantle. Imotekh sees the graveyard leave, or the artifact leave the graveyard, so making a couple more tokens. And then it is... we could go for the Gilded Lotus. Do we even need the Nim Deathmantle in play here? Probably safer in hand, to be honest, isn't it? So, because we're not going to be able to pay for this is the problem. So, yeah, let's go for Gilded Lotus. And we can tap that for a bunch of black mana, so we play Tortured Existence. Puts us down to 7 cards in hand, so we can't discard to hand size, but we can mess around with some cards in our graveyard and make even more tokens. So we'll bring back the Scrap Trawler, and we'll lose the Spider, because we're drawing enough cards as is apparently. So Scrap Trawler's back into hand, and when the Scrap Trawler leaves the graveyard, it is 2 tokens again. And then with the 1 floating mana, let's just grab back the Solemn Simulacrum, and we can hopefully ditch the Meteor Golem. We'll be safe to do that. Which brings back the Solemn, triggering our commander again. I'm just hoping that we've got enough blockers to survive now. There's always that potential overrun effect, or whatever it was that they cheated for previously, that we have to worry about. But I think we've done all we can here without being able to assemble a combo, unfortunately. Get to see what the deck wants to do though. Nim Deathmantle is a pretty obvious combo to throw in the deck, but you would have this and Ashnod's Altar or Krark Clan Ironworks, which allows you to sacrifice a creature in order to make 2 mana. So you do that twice, and it will pay for the Nim Deathmantle equip, and you can do it infinitely with a bunch of different creatures. Because obviously the creature will hit the bin and then leave. Your commander will see that and make more tokens to sack to the ability on Nim Deathmantle, so that's the broad idea. But we did get off to a slow start, unfortunately, so that might hurt us in the long run. And we have managed to leave our opponent with a bunch of mana as well, but only 2 cards in hand at the beginning of the turn. Milling a hell of a lot thanks to swinging in previously. And I would leave the graveyard open for all of you to look, but it won't show us. It will keep closing the graveyard. Undead War Chief, not seeing that is really good because that's a hell of a buff. Endless Ranks of the Dead makes a bunch more zombies, so 5 Death Touches into play. Bunch of mana being tapped out and put into some kind of big spell here. Okay, that is a Dark Salvation where X is 5. And they're going to get some zombie tokens with that, so yeah, that's not the worst thing that could have happened. Our commander can go back into... Are we going to be able to reanimate it? Not having a sack outlet is hurting us at the moment. We could go Scrap Trawler, but we'd have to sacrifice it to this, and I'd rather sacrifice this to it. Yeah, we'll put it back in the command zone. I was hoping that we'd be able to reanimate it somehow, maybe with this, but we're missing a few pieces at the moment, unfortunately. The Psychomancer can go to the right again. This has incrementally gained us life over the course of the game, but it's really to go infinite with the Nim Death Mantle. Like, we can make infinite death triggers all we like, but if we don't have a means of capitalising on that, then obviously it's not going to be of much use to us. Now, where are all these tokens going? Looks like it's all swinging in towards us, so he's taking his chance of trying to get at us, and then it'll be a 1v1. Like I said before, that's probably the best thing for him to do. And I imagine he's thinking masses for blockers, so we'll get rid of Josu Vess, and then maybe we'll be able to blow this up and he can't recast it again. So that can be a Death Toucher, and then just any other creature, doesn't matter. This doesn't have first strike, does it? No, just Menace, so the Death Touch will get rid of the commander. A Lifelink Worm and a 4/4 will survive that. Then everything else is getting double blocked with 2/2s. We will only lose half of the Necrons that block. Right, so we've got 9 damage coming in towards us, one of which is negated by the Lifelinker. So 6 damage. I think I'm fine just taking that and holding on to some tokens. Plague Belcher going to have each opponent lose a life per token that died there, so we'll be at 21. And then the Psychomancer, we can continue to chip away at the Ishin player. Well, we get to, thanks to the mill, see the back of a Ruinous Ultimatum there, that's good. 1 card in Ishin's hand and 7 life left. See if he can do anything. Just drawing into a Boros Signet, unfortunately. Has managed to survive a few turns, this is why you play it out. You never know what you'll top deck into. Alright, so some more mill for us. A potential Lightning Bolt, and we'll take 2 to the One Ring as well. Which is obviously why I didn't want to take too much damage to the zombie player. And we'll have to sacrifice a creature to call to the grave, which will just have to be a token, I think. Alright, well, we've got their numbers is Legion, which can be played from the graveyard. And that can gain us a bunch of life and make a bunch of Necrons, which will, yeah, obviously add to the artifact count and gain us even more life, which could help us against this player. Wonder if that's worth taking a turn off for, though. All depends on if we can assemble this combo or not. Go down to 17 this turn, thanks to losing the Mana Crypt flip. A Cabal Coffers is more mana. We will Windmill Slam that into play. Black Market Connections just make a treasure so that we're not taking too much life. Draw to the One Ring so that we know exactly what we're trying to do this turn. Alright, there's a Sol Ring, a Lockhust Heavy Destroyer as well. So that's not of much use to us, unfortunately. It is good discard fodder for the Tortured Existence, though. I did during blocks, actually. Threw away a card I shouldn't have done. Where is it? Yeah, we could have swung in with this and reanimated the Meteor Golem to blow that up. Would have cost us more life, but would have been worth it, I think. But I think I blocked Josie Vess with that, so probably shouldn't have done that. Can we get into a combo? Yeah, not sure if we can. Let's get our commander into play. We'll sacrifice the Technomancer, or do we need to sack this to get a sack outlet out of the bin? Annoyingly, I think we might have to, actually, so let's go for that. Play out the Sol Ring. Play our commander again. Get 6 mana off the Cabal Coffers, which is enough to get our commander on its own. Then use the Illuminous to sacrifice the Scrap Trawler, triggering the Scrap Trawler, and we will grab a Spawning Pit, because that's the only sack outlet we've got at the moment. Altar of Dementia, maybe that's better. Yeah, that probably is better, actually. So we'll grab the Altar. Psychomancer I'm going to go at the mono black player with now, because we should be able to swing in and hurt Terrax enough to get him out of the game, because I want to swing in with Wormcoil Engine. our commander triggers to the altar, leaving the graveyard. And then, as I calculate it, we can put 8 into X on this, and we'll gain, that'll be 15 plus 8, 23 life, and a bunch of tokens. And we'll just go for that and hope that we survive. All these creatures, or a lot of them, don't have menace now, so we'll try that. We need Ashnod's Altar or Krark Clan Ironworks. So X is 8, like I said. We've got 14 artifacts now because I just sacrificed a treasure. And then Imotekh is going to... oh crap, they come in tapped. Alright, we'll hold back the Wormcoil Engine then in that case. Just put the buff on Wormcoil Engine. I had a feeling I was making a mistake playing that. Yeah, well, we'll see if we survive this now. Might have just thrown away the game. But like I said, we want to set up the Nim Deathmantle combo. I haven't filled the deck with a bunch of tutors because it's just not that fun. We've got Beseech the Queen, which we've already seen hit the bin if Magic Online will stop being weird. That's the only tutor in the deck, I think. What do we get rid of? Just get rid of that. And the Solemn. We have jumped up to 39 life at least, and we should be able to make some decent blocks here, I hope. If our opponent just uses his turn to cast his commander again, then as far as I'm concerned, that buys us another turn. Unfortunately, we bought Terrax another turn as well, because I didn't want to turn in sideways, but makes the game last a bit longer, makes it a bit more fun, like I said before. Unfortunately, this thing only triggers on non-token artifacts, so we can't play out a sack outlet and get rid of all our Necrons to ping our opponents out. Wanted to keep somewhat of a Necron theme. You know, we could just go for typical aristocrat cards and use typical aristocrat wins, but all the decks start to look the same when you do stuff like that. Now, there are 10 3/3 Death Touchers that can come in towards us, and a couple of Menace creatures as well. So if another Lord comes into play, it could be relevant. Awaken the Erstwhile. Each player discards all the cards in their hand and creates that many black zombies. Yeah, that doesn't feel good. Luckily, we do have access to some reanimation. I think he would have swung in first before doing that, but obviously he doesn't want us to have too many cards in hand. Don't think we really lost anything too scary there. Alright, still swinging in at us. It's Terrax is going to get back into the game here if we're not careful. But neither of us have been able to take him out because we're pointing nukes at each other. I think this player's more equipped to deal with Terrax though. We've just been kind of dodging everything that he's been doing to us over here. So let's see. We've got the Menace creatures will ignore for 9 life. Unless we want to block with Wormcoil. Although all the creatures have Death Touch, don't they? So maybe not. It's just chump block with a bunch of zombie tokens. We do have to bear in mind the Plague Belcher pinging us as well. If we get rid of 7 zombies here... Is this on any zombie dying? Whenever a zombie you control dies, alright, well that's relevant. So not getting rid of Terrax with the Plague Belcher, seemingly. We'll just block like that and then take 9 damage to the Menace creatures. Alright, so we went down to 27 there. We must have taken an extra hit to a zombie. The blocking can be a bit weird on Magic Online. It's not exactly the most intuitive program, but I don't think it'll matter, thankfully. So no cards in any player's hand now, and the Sun Titan has gone down, thankfully. And before Plague Belcher is dealt with, a board wipe is offline for Terrax as well, so that bodes well for us as well. He could get into, like, the number one problem with this deck is that we're going to be scared of things like Vandal Blast, which he could get into. But would he play a Vandal Blast just to get rid of us and then die to the zombies? Okay, I think he just dropped a land there, so sticking it out, but not doing too well, unfortunately. Probably gets down his commander, or he's just tapping out. Yeah, not bothering with the commander at all. So that is a bunch of mill for us. We've only got 40 cards left in the deck, and we're about to draw some as well, so we'll have to be careful. Really need to try and get into these combos that we're so desperate for. Could do with drawing into some creatures as well, so that we can grab some stuff back with the Tortured Existence. And sacrificing to the enchantment over there can just be a Necron token. Then I'll have to pass through manually with Mesmeric Orb because the client's starting to struggle with all these things on the stack. Alright, there's Ashnod's Altar and a Junk Diver. So putting Junk Diver on top with the Volrath Stronghold could be the thing here. Alright, there's a Dread Return as well, so we could grab it back with that as well. Looks like we're going to be able to do it, I think. A Workshop Assistant available to us as well. A target artifact from graveyard to hand. And there's Mere Retriever as well, finally. So, got the stuff we need. Win the Mana Crypt flip and get bolted by the One Ring, draw into a land just to mock us, get this late into the game and finally draw one. Black market connections, we will do a treasure, draw a card, and hold control when we do this so that we can respond. And we will go Vorath Stronghold. We can reanimate something like this. We'll put Mere Retriever on top with the Stronghold. Imotekh sees that leave and go on top of our library, so we get some tokens. And draw into that off the black market connections, get down a swamp so that the Cabal coffers will tap for more. And then we want the Mere Retriever in play. Sacrifice it to the Zeraz, which turns out to be our only sack outlet the entire game, weirdly. Psychomancer pointed at Terrax. Retriever goes on to the Ashnod's Altar, bringing that back into our hand. That leaves play, triggering our commander again. So we're going to have plenty of tokens for the Ashnod's Altar. Play the Altar. Play the Dread Return. Onto the Mere Retriever. Have to sacrifice tokens to do the flashback on this. And that triggers our commander again. Sacrifice Mere Retriever to the Ashnod's Altar. I appreciate my opponents playing this out, by the way. Ping Terrax again. Mere Retriever. Somewhere in here is a Nim Deathmantle. Triggers our commander again. Play Nim Deathmantle. And then we will go through to attacks. We'll swing in at the right with the Worm Coil engine. Imotekh might as well buff the Worm Coil so we gain a bit more life. Don't think it's going to be relevant. And Terrax, being a true friend of the channel here, using a lot of his time to allow me to get the video for all of you. So I do appreciate him playing that out, even though it was a bit of a slog. And he takes the hit. So we've got the combo online now. We go Ashnod's Altar, sacrifice a warrior token, sacrifice the Worm Coil engine. That will trigger the Psychomancer, which we only have one opponent to target with. Nim Deathmantle, we now have the 4 mana to pay into. And the Worm Coil engine is going to leave a couple of tokens behind, which we actually don't need for the combo thanks to our commander being in play, but if our commander was unavailable, we could do this with Worm Coil engine and not our commander. We just get twice as many tokens this way, so Nim Deathmantle we say yes to. Out comes the Worm Coil engine equipped, and it triggers our commander again. And we do this infinitely for infinite tokens and infinite pings with the Psychomancer, so we do have our opponent here. I'll just show him a few more times and then we'll scoop it up, I think. Trading out the Necrons for Phyrexian Worms. Alright, so I've told my opponent it's infinite, he's probably already spotted it, but let's draw some cards with the One Ring just to see what we were drawing into, and we will call it a victory. Dark Prophecy. That would be a non-bow actually, we need to be careful with stuff like that. If we're pinging our opponent, we'll gain the life actually, so it will negate it, but yeah, cards like that we need to be careful of. Marionette Master will get rid of our opponents a lot faster as well. But yeah, that is that. We will call it a day here, not waste any more of our opponent's time. Appreciate my opponents playing that out. I was not expecting that we'd get a half-decent game with Imotekh there in the early game, but just shows why you don't scoop it up, because you can often cobble together a victory if your opponents distract away from yourself. So hopefully you all enjoyed this one. If you want to see more from it, as usual, let me know in the comment section. Deck list is in the description along with a link to Patreon. Big thank you to Terrax and the rest of the Patreons for supporting the channel monetarily. And I will see you all in the next one, I hope. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.